intro to the gauntlet is probably going to be like what I'm thinking about bringing for the tournament. So still got to think on that a little bit more.
Okay. Well, hopefully, I was hoping to use this session. I'm glad y'all are here for us to try and find holes in potential lineups, see what we can work off of. I've got the lineup right now, and the call from Tuesday, building around the Zombie Ash deck, pairing it with the Fiora Shen, really is a great setup against either Ramp or Anivia Control or Fearsomes. Those mid-range Shadow Owls matches are going to be favorable. Fearsomes is like pretty good for Fiora Shen, and really good, like almost can't beat the Ash deck unless you brick. So I think that's going to be one of the more popular decks, the Fearsome deck. It's easy to play.
I think there'll be people who have like 3 fearsome decks almost.
That's also an idea. That was what my thought was. I mean, if you remember the call a couple weeks ago when we first went over this format, I was like, triple harrowing deck, let's go. Double fearsome. And yeah, you can split them up and make it happen. You can do like Nocturne with one. You could do like Callista alone. You could do Elise Callista. And then maybe do like Vlad Hecarim. There's a lot of things you can do. I got somebody else about to join the call. I gotta add them real quick. So yeah, PK, you wanna give us a rundown of where you are right now?
Yeah. So some combination of these 4 decks. Is what I'm working on. Is just a Trundle Trinamere Feel the Rush. The deck doesn't play stones. It plays Ancient Yeti instead. So not as big into the ramp.
Right.
The other deck idea I have is my Noxus Freljord Overwhelm deck that has a good matchup into control, but not a fantastic matchup into aggro. I'm also looking at TF Go Hard. I'm on a version that uses like Petty Officer, just for the fearsome blocker and the potential keg.
Nice.
And then the 4th deck I'm looking at is Mono Targon that splashes 2 atrocities. And that's just Diana Leona.
Mono Targon, Diana Leona. That
those are the 4 I'm looking at right now.
An Invoke deck is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Going for like super value, but like actually runs a win condition in the main deck, which is nice. Instead of blindly
Eclipse Dragon too, right?
Yep.
Okay, and you're playing the 1-drop that gives you the pedal.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
You'd have to.
It's a cool list. I enjoy it.
Yeah, you have to share that list with us for sure, because that's a deck that I haven't really. I played it a good bit, but I don't. There's not a list I love right now. There's a single combat list and things like that, but maybe the atrocity might be what I've been missing for the late game.
Yeah, I like it a lot because so often you're pulling like huge elusives with a spell shield on it.
Yeah.
And then the Eclipse Dragon gets huge plus a pale. It gives the deck extra reach when it's like against like control can struggle against it. I also think it makes it a little more reliable, just because it's a main deck win condition. Like even if your invokes are terrible, you can still atrocity a Eclipse Dragon.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely.
And you get a lot of value out of like the Scryer and stuff. I think it's just a good list.
Yeah, I like the Scryer. So let's see, Targon, a Liege. Or Day and Night. We'll just call it Day and Night. As a possible deck. Go hard with Petty Officers. Full on 3 Elise, 3 TF.
I think I have 1 Gangplank in my list, but I'm just testing stuff right now. As far as like specific numbers.
Petty Officer seems nice, honestly.
I mean, yeah, that's a good card.
I was thinking about
Decks are
that. I was thinking
nice.
about maybe resurrecting the Swain TF with petty officers to fight the fearsomes. Seems like that would be good against fearsome, minus the harrowing. But you could maybe strand their board um, with a Swain Leviathan. You know, something
I
like
expect
that.
a lot of SI control.
Yeah.
Kind of makes Swain feel not as good in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. No, I was just thinking about petty officer as a card. So you got Go Hard, you got Day and Night, and what was the other deck? You said the Overwhelm.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Overwhelm and then Feel the Rush.
Frey Knox, Overwhelm. That's the what was it? Darius Brahm.
Yeah, it's Darius Brahm. Actually, like the 3 Brahm right now.
Okay. I like Brahm actually. I was thinking about maybe trying to bring back Brahm for the Go Hard decks because it seems like it would be good against those decks.
Yeah, he puts them in a really awkward situation.
Ruination could be weird, but if you, I mean, you wouldn't have trouble leveling them up, and if you ever got a power on them with the gem, then it's probably a great place to be. And a lot of those decks, that deck's bad matchups. Even like PNZ decks are gonna have trouble with that. This Starlit Seer deck, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So PNZ removal is not gonna be the best. But I don't know if I have time to figure that one out because that deck had trouble with ramp too. People going up top. But maybe that's not the case. If there's enough obliterates, I don't know. I'd have to play Star Shaping, I guess. But I don't want to get lost in that. So what was the 4th deck?
Feel the Rush. Trundle
Feel the
Treasure.
Trundle. Okay, now I want to talk about that deck a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I had a discussion earlier about, and this is the Yeti version. So not playing the extra ramp. It's just Trundle Trinamir. The only ramp you have is Catalyst, is that right? Or no Catalyst?
Just the Catalyst.
Just Catalyst, yeah, okay.
Cut the ramp.
So I was really trying to figure out about this ramp deck because Trundle Trinamir seems to have the best win percentage of any deck against Go Hard, which is the most popular deck by twice as much as the next most popular deck right now. So leads me to believe that people are going to play, of course, Go Hard, and then they're also likely to play the deck that beats Go Hard the hardest. But, you know, I had some discussion with a couple other players, and they were like, what does the ramp deck beat other than the Go Hard deck? Because that's not a reason to play it, because if that's the case, you could just ban it, you know? If you're, you know, or they could ban it, you know? So, like, the real issue is it getting undercut by other decks? Like, how's Fearsomes against the Trundle Trinamir in your experience?
So Feel the Rush, not my super most experienced deck. I do play a fair bit of it, but I am not probably the expert on it. So for this, I've been tinkering with someone is running the box in it.
Oh, the box is great. Okay.
And it makes it very, very good into Fearsomes.
Absolutely.
And then you have the Ancient Yetis that can trade with the Fearsomes instead of like sticking with just stones. I also think that the SIA failure control does a lot into a lot of the aggro decks and a lot of the Swain mid-rangey decks.
Yeah. That's fair.
But
yeah, and
I'm not the expert to ask on that question, but I do think Feel the Rush is really good right now.
Yeah, and there's you know, greedier versions too. Like there's the menu Feel the Rush as well. You can do other kinds of Feel the Rush. I've been thinking about, and this might sound mean, but Timo Sejuani Feel the Rush, which sounds kind of crazy. But Sejuani right now seems like it would be good to me. Think about Fearsomes. They're not beating a level Sejuani. That's not happening. Like if you level it. The Harrowing, it's just a good counter to Harrowing too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And Harrowing's like one of the best cards in the meta. That's why Fearsomes is so good also. It has the Harrowing top end. Anivia, that's also Harrowing. And I mean, it's either Harrowing or Feel the Rush, and both of those actually get kind of cooked by a level Sejuani. Like, you can't just Feel the Rush if there's a level Sejuani in play. You know, you could Vengeance it away for sure. You can maybe Trundle Threaten it for sure, but it needs to be taken into consideration. So it's something that I'm thinking about. But if we're looking at this lineup here, if you're trying to narrow down these decks, you could. There's no overlapping champions between any of them. No. So, and no region combinations that are overlapping. So you can play any three of these decks. If you got them narrowed down to these three, have you thought about ban strategy at all? With
so the two decks I think I'm going to play for sure are the Feel the Rush deck and the Atrocity Invoke list. I really have been playing those decks recently, and they both feel really good. And so, kind of the Overwhelm deck makes sense if I am expecting to play into more control, and the Go Hard deck makes sense if I'm playing into more aggro. It's kind of where these are the two I'm kind of deciding between. I'm also just a much better player at the Overwhelm deck than I am the Go Hard deck. But that can be solved with just practice.
Yeah. You still got some time. Yeah, okay.
If I played Feel the Rush, Overwhelm, and Atrocity, or in the Invoke list, I'm going to leave SI Freljord up.
Right. Because you got Feel the Rush, and you have the Invoke plays well into the SI Freljord.
Invoke is pretty good into Feel the Rush. Not super favored, but it can win.
It's going to come down to the Invokes for sure. Finding Obliterates is kind of big.
Yes. Kind of most of the matchup. But with Go Hard, if I went Feel the Rush, Go Hard, Invoke, then I probably Go Hard could be a liability against SI Freljord.
Right.
So that's kind of the decision I'm trying to decide.
Right.
Trying to choose between.
Okay, well, we can work this out. We want to find out weaknesses of all these decks, and then if there's a common weakness between all of them, that's how we can decide what we want to ban, and make sure there's not two, or try not to have two, and we also need to see maybe what we can take advantage of too, because we might be able to box out a deck. Okay, and we talked about this on the call on Tuesday. The VOD is going to be posted shortly, if you want to go back and check that out. But it was the same principle that we're about to use with the Zombie Ash deck next to Shin Fiora. You get to box out the ramp deck if you play a third deck that goes above 50% against it, because they're never going to have a good matchup with that deck, and it's very likely that they just can't win with that deck if you play something even greedier. Like, say the third deck is a greedy deep list, that's going to mess up the Trundle Trunamir pretty good. I'm talking about playing your own Atrocity, speed deep, no Vile Feast, no Withering Wail, Maokai, just all the Lure of the Depths and everything, right? So you can just start dunking. And the idea with that is that this deck can't get a win off you. Like, the Fiora Shin's going to do well against that deck. The Zombie Ash can do well against that deck. And the Deep will do well against that deck. So it doesn't matter what you ban if they have that in their lineup. You'll just ban whatever their worst. You probably Go Hard if they have it in the list, right? And so we want to try and get that situation to where we can get as many matchups that basically, and that's called stranding a deck, or targeting a deck, people call it. I like to say stranding a deck, because if they have it in their lineup, you're always going to let it through. And stranding is a little bit better than targeting, I think, in the terms of what I'm trying to describe here, because that deck's just not going to get a win. And it's kind of hard to pull off getting a lineup that can do that, because decks can win their bad matchups for sure, but the percentages, if the percentages are good enough, then you're gonna be all right. Especially the the way it's going to go with what decks you lead with. That's another important part. What you leave them with and what you lead with. Because if you lead with a deck that's not as good against Trundle Tryndamere, and then they get a win with the Trundle Tryndamere, then that could be troublesome. So it's going to have a lot to do with the lineups, and we have a lineup table as well. I don't know if y'all saw this spreadsheet. Did you see it?
I don't think so.
I posted it. So let me put a link here in the Academy chat. Possible lineups here. This is the code for your deck right here. You put it in the chat. Nice.
Yeah, that's the invoke list.
All right, I wanna import that, but I don't have any room. Okay.
Oh yeah, I saw this on Reddit. Yeah.
Okay. Invoke. That's row. Okay, get this over here. So let's start this off from the top. We're gonna do Feel the Rush, pluses and minuses. All right. So good matchups. Let's do plus. Okay. It's good against Go Hard. Okay. What else is it good against?
Good against. I think it's good against Ash Noxus.
Ash Nox.
Some people, depending on how you build it, if you're on like 2 Farons, it might be more even. But most of the time, I think.
Yeah, they only play 1 usually. Okay. Should we pull up? If we can pull up a tier list, that might be easier to just go down the list and we can take a look.
Okay, so I think it beats Go Hard. I think it beats Miss Rates. I think it beats.
How we doing against?
Soraka.
How we doing against discard aggro?
Against discard aggro, I think we farm it with avalanches and whales.
Discard aggro.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Go Hard, Ash Nox, discard aggro. Ezreal Draven. How we do against that?
Draven. That I don't have a ton of experience with. It's like it's very similar to Swain decks, so I imagine the SI is favored.
What we'll do is we'll put a ++ for the good matchups and a plus for favorable. Okay, just so we can basically the difference between like 60 and 70%.
I think it loses. It doesn't lose hard, but it loses unfavored to Fiora Shen.
Yes.
Gets favored into TK Raka.
Favored against Raka. That makes sense.
I think just the Ruination and the Ladros and stuff is hard for that deck to deal with.
Yeah.
I think it might lose to Zombie Anivia.
How about Zombie Anivia? I could see that. I could definitely see that.
I don't have a ton of familiarity.
They got a lot of harsh wins because if the Nivea's in play, and
that would be a ban for me potentially.
Yeah. So minus Zombie Nivea. That makes sense. Okay.
Time Revive, I'm also not familiar with.
I wouldn't worry about that. I'm pretty. Yeah, I would imagine that's favored.
Basically, with the exception of Fiora Shen, it beats mid-range.
Let's see, what else is in here? Pirate aggro.
I haven't played that matchup in a while. It used to be very unfavored when Trundle was a 5/6. Or a 4/6, 5/6, whatever he was. When he was broken, it was unfavored for the aggro deck. Now it's probably still favored for SI Frail. But
all right, we'll just leave it in the middle. We'll just leave it in the middle for now. We already said the Kench Mash. Scouts seems tough to me.
It'll lose to Scouts, most likely.
They who endure.
I think it's probably favored. Probably favored with the freezes the deck runs.
Okay.
And the removal.
And again, you could always make hedges in your decks once we get the whole picture here. So, you think it's favored? Alright, let's go back to the tier list here. We already got Fiora Shen, we got the Heimer Vi, we got the Kench Soraka, that's a mirror match. What about that Overwhelm deck? That one seems like it might be trouble, huh?
Yeah, I think
The Darius Draven
Overwhelm
Targan?
I think Overwhelm is favored.
It's favored for you? Or favored for Overwhelm?
For the Overwhelm deck, especially if they're on the good Noxus Freljord version.
Okay, well, I think the more common version is the Targan version. So let's work off
I can
that.
second that notion.
Yeah,
because that's what we've been playing recently. It's been
I think it'll be a little more favored. I think Overwhelm is still probably favored.
Okay, I'm thinking the same thing. The lot is 30 units. The I mean, obviously the Freljord one's gonna be even better. But what about we already said Ezreal Draven. Does that change anything if they're playing Swain? Probably not
almost
much.
It might become a little more favored.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, okay. I think that's most of the decks. So we got that fleshed out. Now let's do Invoke. Let's take it from the top. I'll call off the decks and you just tell me plus or minus, all right? Or in the middle. So against Fearsomes.
Fearsomes even.
Say even? Okay. Next is the discard aggro.
Discard aggro. Slightly favored? Maybe. Plus. I would put a plus.
You think that the target deck's good against... Okay, I can see it. Yeah, you have life gain. Let me look at this list real quick you got, actually, because I just imported it.
If you draw your Daybreak package, you're in a good spot. If you don't, you're in a bad spot.
Yeah, I'm more worried about, like, killing a Jinx. Is, like, what I'm most worried about. Just Jinx Rocket every turn is something that I'd be worried about more than anything. I guess you got Diana.
You have Diana. You can get Comet. You can get the Warrior.
Yeah, the Warrior's good. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. You got some good answers to it. I just don't want to lose tempo, so that's why if you draw your early curve, then you won't. You can give up a little tempo to kill the Jinx, which is the only thing that's really going to kill you if you're on board. Okay, that makes sense. I played the matchup a bit, and I think the only time I lost was to that. So yeah, I could see that being favored. Discard. You say Fearsomes is about even. And what about Ezreal Draven?
Ezreal Draven. Again, I feel like I don't play against that deck at all.
It's funny because I played against that deck 8 times in a row the other day.
Like all the streams, people are playing against it, but I never see it.
Yeah. Well, let me click on the Ezreal Draven. Maybe we can.
I think it's gotta be
get some
favored.
matchups here.
Yeah, it's favored, especially the Atrocity version. I think it's Invoke favored.
Invoke favored. Let me go back to this. I messed up my list here. Archetypes. Fearsome. What were we talking about? Oh, Ezreal Draven? Yeah, Invoke favored.
I think so.
Let me see that. Alright, Ezreal Draven. How about Go Hard?
Go Hard, I would put as even.
Okay.
I've tested that matchup quite a bit, and it seems like a 50-50.
Nice. Okay. Pirate aggro?
Pirate aggro, unfavored, actually. The more burn the aggro deck has, the more unfavored it is to turn on for turn
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's a good Fiora Shen.
Fiora Shen, I think it's favored.
You think Fiora Shen's favored with the Invoke deck?
I think so. Like they can deny comments and stuff, but you just outvalue them.
Okay. I just thought that you might have some free eats for the Fiora, and like.
Maybe, but you're not under any pressure to play them.
True. Okay. Seems I don't know. We might want to look at that one later, actually. I'm gonna put that in the chat. And y'all can do the same. Just drop some matches that you might want to test, because we can test them. This is one that I think is in question now. I'm gonna dispute you on this.
Questionable take.
All right, we're gonna do that, and and it would only just take a couple games for us to figure it out. We won't have like, we won't need extensive. But I'm actually playing Fiora Shen, so we should play that match, just so we can get a feel for it. But for now, we'll take your word for it. Down on the Pirate aggro, where are we at now? Fiora Shen, we did discard aggro, did Ezreal Draven, we did go hard, we did Pirate aggro, Scouts.
Scouts is probably even or favored. Probably closer to even.
Yeah, I mean anything from like 55, like 5 points off. I mean, we're going to talk about favored is plus 10, plus is going to be more than that. Equal is going to be 5-point differential. How about does Ezreal Swain get better or worse than the Draven?
I think it's worse for the Swain player.
Okay, well then we're not going to.
Invoke just obliterates every Leviathan.
All right, Raka, Kench.
Raka Kench.
That's got to be favored for you.
Even or favored. I don't play the deck a ton.
If you get 3 obliterates, they actually can't kill you. Like if you get the double obliterate, or like if you obliterate their Star Springs, I don't think they can kill you with damage. If you're playing Star Shape, you are, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just hold on to it until they're about to win with it.
Yeah. I've seen that one play out quite a bit, actually. It's always funny. It's good to know too. Like if you just target the Star Springs, there's like almost no way. Like they need some good shakedowns, or their Kench needs to go off. You know what I'm saying? And while they're pressuring you hard, and that's just hard to muster for them. I mean, you can lose it, sure, but I think if you play a long game of I'm gonna obliterate your Star Spring, then it's really hard for that deck to kill you with regular damage, unless they have the overwhelm on the Star Shepherd. Thehu Endor, that one seems favored, but I could be wrong.
I would think favored. I actually don't think I've played the matchup.
Okay, we'll just put it right here. That deck's not that popular anyway, so it's not going to be that relevant to us.
Seems good.
It's not going to be that relevant to us when we decide on what to play, because that deck's an outlier. The what else? Oh, ramp. What about ramp?
Ramp.
I call it ramp, but Trinamere.
Yeah.
Sometimes they got Yetis, sometimes they got ramp.
I think it's a plus 55.
So it's close.
They feel the rush and you have the double obliterate. You just win the game.
So it's got game against it. But
yes. That's what I like about it.
I mean, your list does have Star Shaping, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let me pull this back up here.
Yeah, the list runs 3 Star Shaping.
Okay, that looks great, actually. That seems like it'd be a pretty favorable matchup, honestly. But let's just put it on regular favorable. So is this the one? I gotta close this other notepad because I got too many notepads up here. Save that one and this one. Okay. So plus on Trundle. And I think that's all the decks. So yeah, Now, if we go down to the next one, that's only one negative for Invoke. What are the bad matchups for Invoke?
The bad matchups for Invoke, it has a lot of game into a lot of decks. It's not super favored in a lot of matchups, but it has very few unfavorable matchups, I think. It's really just
It's a pretty middling deck, I would think.
Like, a deck to be on this weekend, honestly. Like, it's not good, it's not bad. It can play pretty well with everything. It goes late against control. It can handle itself against aggro. It's not getting like killed in the mid game.
Yeah.
like
Yeah, it seems like a very solid deck, actually. That can answer a lot of stuff.
Can have some tough times with a very fast starting opener from aggro. Like if you get high rolled by discard or scouts, you can't just get run over.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
About it.
Okay, yeah, because I had a good run with a similar deck, and then the next day not so much, and so it's like, I'd probably say it's a pretty middling deck. It kind of reminds me of Swain TF, when Swain TF was a deck where it just pretty much went 50% across the board against everything. It could beat anything, basically.
Kind of like the only deck I know for sure that I want to bring, just because I'm comfortable with it. I think it has game into everything.
All right, well, let's look at the next set of decks here. If we're definitely locked on that one, the next thing we want to do is get the Overwhelm deck, because we might be able to cut this short. Let's take it from the top. The Fearsomes. It's got to be a plus.
Fearsomes, even.
Even? Okay. All right, Fjordshin.
Fjordshin, slightly unfavored.
Okay, discard aggro.
Very, very unfavored. Very unfavored.
All right, very bad against discard. Okay, Ezreal Draven.
It's like a 55, even or favored.
Go hard.
Favored.
Okay, Pirate aggro.
Even or slightly unfavored.
All right, Scouts.
I would say even. That's pretty just even.
They don't have reach. That makes sense. Does Ezreal Swain do better than the Draven?
No.
Rocket Kench?
Functionally no difference. Okay. Rocket Kench is weird. Is a very weird matchup. I think it's favored for the Overwhelm deck.
Really? Oh, you're playing the stun.
Yeah, the decisive maneuver.
Yeah.
Which is answered by Bastion and potentially Hush.
Oh. Potentially. Let's see. What'd you say it's favored? Okay, Rocket. Catch. Alright. We already said go hard. Trundle Trinamere.
Trundle Trinamere favored.
The Overwhelm with Targan. Is that even?
I think so. I haven't played actually that matchup a ton.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's enough for this one. And then the last deck is the Go Hard deck, and we can use this one for the future as well. And we should make a whole matchup table as an academy, and just like, I know a lot of y'all do a lot better than I do when it comes to logging games. I could like go back and look at my Mobilytics match history and get some of that information, but if we can work on a spreadsheet, you know, in the future, I think that's how we're going to do this, because we're a little short on time right now. But if we can keep it updated and, you know, possibly make changes to it, it would be a good reference for whenever we're trying to build a lineup like this, because we'll already have this information. So now we'll be able to use the go hard here in all future iterations of this.
I would also trust your input on these matchups much more than mine.
Yeah, well, I definitely disagree with you in a couple places. And the go hard, I think people will have different opinions. But we start with fearsomes. I think that's a negative.
Yeah.
Like, there's some hedges you can make, but you have to be the one making the hedges.
Mm-hmm.
So negative on fearsomes. Fjord Shen is a plus. Discard aggro feels like it's a plus, but could, if you're playing whale, it's definitely a plus. I give it a plus. I mean, I've been run over before, but you know, that's the nature of the discard aggro. Sometimes you just get run over. They got Ezreal Draven. That one's a plus. We'll just play easy Nox. It's a plus, but I have been losing the matchup a little bit recently, so I don't think it's a plus that I used to think it was. Go hard. That's a mirror. Pirate aggro. That one seems, I don't know. Aggro decks in general just seem like they're gonna be favorable. So I'm going plus on this. Although I don't have that much experience with it, but I think that's fine. Pirate aggro. Scouts, that's definitely favorable. I mean, this is the deck, it's the most popular deck, and it's the reason why there's not that many aggro decks in the meta right now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's different for tournaments, though, because people can just ban your go hard and come triple aggro on you. So you got to be careful of that. Scouts, what else is there? Angel Swain's probably similar. Kinch Rock is a negative. Might be a double negative, actually. Right? And there is, I don't know. Could be tough, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not going to put Endure in this list. We got Heimer Vi. That seems like a good matchup. What else? We said Rocket Kinch already. Trundle Trinamere, that's a big negative. The Overwhelm deck, that's a negative. What else? We already did Fjord Shen. Is there anything else we missed here? We did Trundle Trinamere, Pirate aggro, Scouts, Go Hard, Fearsome. We did Fearsome. Yeah, that's, I mean, I don't think we're missing much from the meta here. Oh yeah, the Invoke deck. What we say on the Invoke deck, it's even. So yeah, I don't know. This is pretty accurate here. So what we're gonna need to do now, let me full screen this, is try and find where we have shared weaknesses between all four decks. So Field of Rush, we're looking at Fjord Shen, Zombie Anivia, Scouts, and Overwhelm. See, the Invoke deck has trouble with Scouts and Go Hard. The thing is like if you play Field of Rush, you're gonna be good against the aggressive decks with Reach, less so than Scouts where it has this 30 units, right? Same thing with like a Fjord Shen. Just like where they can endure your removal. Pirate aggro high roll. So it looks like, I don't know, Pirate aggro. What we say about Pirate aggro over here? Field of Rush deck used to be good against it, or was not good against it.
It used to be really good against it, I thought.
Okay, but with the nerf, that might change things, but probably not much actually.
It's still
I think
probably pretty good.
Yeah, it's probably even better when you got Trapper in the deck, and you're plopping out Ancient Yeti on 4, and you have healing behind the board control. So Overwhelm is looking like it's bad against discard aggro. Fjord Shin. Fjord Shin looks like it might be a ban if you play Overwhelm with without the go hard.
If I was Feel the Rush, Overwhelm, and Invoke, I think you ban Flourishing.
That would look to be the ban if you want to do that. And so if you want to focus on that, but that's not that popular of a deck. It's probably like 5th most popular, 6th most popular, right? And so like not really the number 1 ban strat for your lineup. You see negatives on pirate aggro and discard aggro. So aggro is just going to be tough. This is going to be a greedy lineup if you do this, this, and this. Now you can line up well in the shared pluses on the aggro decks. Like this one's good against discard aggro, but Invoke's got game against it, right? So that would be a plus there. That would be like the aggro deck you might leave them with, except that if you're playing, the Overwhelm deck, you can get stuck there. Whereas if you play Go Hard, you can let through discard aggro, I think, because you're favored in the Field Rush and the Go Hard matchup. So yeah, it comes down to exactly what you were saying. If you're gonna want to be focused against the aggro or not, and then the hedges are gonna matter depending on what the third deck's gonna be. So, and you see how this process is all drawn up here.
Yeah.
So let's do the mix and match on it. We can do, if we do the Overwhelm, definitely do this lineup here. You got 2 positive Go Hard decks, so you can let that go through, and Invoke's got an even matchup. That's a great place to be against the number 1 deck, actually. Obviously, Go Hard would also be equal, so I would only play Go Hard if your strat was to let through the Go Hard deck, which is a good place to be because it's the most popular deck, right? So, yeah. I mean, I've definitely had lineups like that where I just targeted the most popular deck, Ezreal Karma, and just was like, okay, great. So, in this spot, you can just play, wait, where were we? Oh, yeah. So, it's kind of interchangeable, the Go Hard and the Invoke, because the Go Hard is going to have a mirror, so it would depend on how comfortable you are in the mirror, but, it's got to even match up with itself. Obviously, you can make some hedges to, like, obviously Petty Officer is going to be a lot worse in the mirror than something else, like Chronicler or something else, But, and like Elise is better than Gangplank in the mirror. So, if you look at it that way, you can slot it in and then maybe buff up your mirror match in your card selection. If you play this over Invoke. Now, you say that you're locked in on Invoke.
That's really locked in, but...
Okay, but I just want to show you this right here. You see how that would work? You'll have 2 favorables against the most popular deck and an even or an even. That's a great place to be because you can let it through and then you'll at least get an even match against it or a favorable match. And when you do that and you leave them with their Go Hard deck, you should always queue up the mirror match first. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no.
As long as, like, the other deck... So, like, say you have Go Hard as the mirror match, right? Down the middle. Or you feel Invoke is down the middle, right? So, say you have the Invoke, and then you leave them with a deck that has a good matchup against Invoke. I mean, that has a bad matchup against Invoke. So then you lead with Invoke first. So the best they can get is a 50-50, no matter what they lead with. And then if they lead with a bad matchup, great. Get the Invoke win. Now their Go Hard has to go against a bad matchup. You see? So say they lead with the Go Hard, right? Then you can you get your 50-50. And then if you win, then the match is over with. Yeah. You see, because like you're gonna crush they're not gonna be able to get another win with it. And now you gotta be careful with that though, because it depends on how lopsided their other matchup is. And that's why we should definitely do some band practice. But that's a good place to be coming in the band phase. To where the best they get is a 50-50. Right? Once. Right? Yes. Because then, like, you look at the Invoke deck, like, it's possible against say Ramp is their other deck, right? So you're going to be good against Ramp with the Invoke. and then you also have the Feel the Rush, and you have the Overwhelm deck. So these are all like good against at least even, you see. So no matter how that ban goes, really, if you let the ramp deck through, and you let the go hard deck through, and you ban their third deck, whatever it is, the aggro deck, whatever they got, right? Then look at how the bans play out. Let's say they ban the Overwhelm deck. Okay, well, you got at least the even with the go hard, and you have a favorable. Okay, and then you have an even with the Feel the Rush. Okay, so then the best they could get is a 50%, because then you lead with Feel the Rush, because they can play the mirror if they want, and they'll get the 50-50. Okay, and then if they led with Go Hard, you could steal the win the Feel the Rush, and then you have two favorables lined up. So they're screwed no matter what. Does that make sense? They have to try and make the 50-50. But the psychology of most tournament players, and what I've come to find, is that if they have a really bad matchup, they'll play it first. Okay? This happens a lot. Like, say I have Zombie Ash and Shin Fiora left over after a ban. Okay? They banned my TF Swain. This is an example from tournament past, right? So I have those two, and then they have War Mothers and Fiora Shin. I left them stuck. Okay? They're real stuck there. So what are they going to do? They can't play Fiora Shin into Zombie Ash because they're going to lose. So they try and lead with Fiora Shin first to try and get the win in the mirror match so they can get it out the way. Does that make sense? But the problem that they got is they're stuck no matter what because they're playing War Mothers or whatever. But like if you win with the Fiora Shin in the 50-50, if you win the 50-50, the match is over with. You know, and then the thing is, if you lose, it's still great for you. You know, so it's like you get like this big redemption because you got two favorable matchups on the back end. So offer them the 50-50, flip your coin. If you win, great. They might feel that the Field Rush deck is. They might not know. See, for me, I'm playing Zombie Ash, so people don't know what the deck does. Half the people don't. You know, some people know what it does, but I mean, they haven't played the matchup much. You know, they can see the cards and understand what I'm doing, but they might not really understand how cooked they are in certain matchups, right? So that's an advantage from playing a rogue deck. But knowing the matchups, that's like a good idea because now they're just like in a stuck spot. So the best thing they could do is lead with the Fiora Shin if they think that it's got a worse. Now they probably don't think that Fiora Shin's got that bad of a matchup against the Ash deck, right? Because they have to deny for Harrowing. So a lot of people are like, oh well, how does a Zombie Ash beat the Shin Fiora deck? They have deny for Harrowing, right? That's what everybody says. But it's one of the most common questions. But the fact of the matter is, you don't ever have to cast Harrowing and beat them. So the deny is not even that super relevant. So if that's where it ends up post, that's the same spot that we're looking at here, where they're going to end up wanting to lead with whatever has the most lopsided matchup first, because there's more of a chance that they can possibly avoid it if they get a win against the other deck. There's a chance that I queue up the least worst matchup for them, and then they can steal a win, and they never have to play the worst possible matchup in the A versus A, B versus B on either side. Does that make sense? Their weakest deck is the first one they want to do. Because if they lead with the other deck and get the win, they're still going to have to face the worst possible matchup. And so that's why it's good to sometimes just come out and hammer them. Make sure you look into that. Because it's like, okay, well, if I know they're going to come, if I know that they know, and again, this is a lot of context here. You got to give your opponent a little credit sometimes that they might be doing this. But, deciding what to play first is huge. And I think that it's a good strategy to come with, if you have a very lopsided matchup, like I'm talking about like an 80-20 matchup, if one exists. Like Lee Sin versus War Mothers days or something, Like if it's that bad, then, and you could tell because you got to look at the list, If they don't have any hedges for the matchup either, then, or you don't have any hedges for the matchup at all, then you should just lead with that deck. Get it over with. Because if you get the win, then it just could be completely lopsided. And the whole match could go upside down if you steal the win. So I don't know. That's a good idea, I think. And for this lineup, it seems like you're stranding a couple decks here. Like you're going to end up at post ban phase in a lot of good spots involving Go Hard, which is the top deck. So this is probably a good place to be. And then I think that the spot is either Invoke or the Go Hard deck. Honestly, if this is true, what you're saying here, if you feel this way, you've been playing this deck a lot. Now, I disagree with you on the Fiora Shin part. And Fiora Shin will be good here, but that's the thing I think will probably be your ban, obviously. If you play the top 3 here, you just ban Fiora Shin if on site. I'm pretty sure.
I'm good with that.
But beyond that, I want you to understand, how to ban as well as, what to lead with and why it matters. People say it doesn't matter. It does matter. Do you understand why it matters after I explain that to you?
It tilts the winning percentages for the next 2 games.
Right. Yeah, it's big time. It's big time. Some people are like, oh, it doesn't matter. No, it definitely matters. It even matters.
In a position to win the set.
Yeah, it even matters after you lost. Believe it or not. But that's more a psychology thing. Okay. Like if you lost, maybe you can switch, right? And then that way, it takes the momentum away from your opponent. If your opponent just beat a deck, then guess what? It looks like a beatable deck because they just come from beating it. So switch to a different deck, and then it's like, oh, now they're just back on it. And by the time you get back to the third game, you see, especially if the other deck has a good matchup, okay? Yeah, you're going to have to play that matchup anyway, but you can turn the momentum, you see. Very important. Doesn't seem that important, but whenever it comes to, like, competitive playing, like, we get on tilt, man. Like, it happens.
Oh, no, it's very true.
It happens. And managing tilt is the most important thing, especially if we're playing a 10-round event where you can't get a loss. So if we get a game loss in the middle of a match, we can't tilt off of it. We need to figure out how to edge our opponents. And that's important, man. So, like, and if you feel like you're winning when you get out of the ban phase with this strat, then that already, like, has your energy high, higher than your opponent. So it's going to give you some confidence. Yeah, no, I think this lineup looks good. I don't know much about your Overwhelm deck, but I'm just taking it on face, what you're telling me, And if you can target Go Hard, then that's even better. If you can let Go Hard through, then that's great, because I think that's going to be the most played deck amongst all lineups. Fearsome, probably number 2.
I'm concerned about bringing the Overwhelm deck just because it just has bad aggro matchups.
It does. This whole lineup is not the best against all the aggro decks. Like a triple aggro lineup. But what you need to do is, and my lineup's the same. Like, Zombie Ash is not good against aggro, like, except for scouts. Like, any aggro with reach is good against Zombie Ash, right? Like, if you play a single Farron, it could be difficult for me. So, I mean, not unwinnable. I mean, I play Tavern Keepers or whatever. But, like, obviously I'll hedge my deck to play triple. The extra space that you have in deck list, you just hedge against aggro a little bit. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm adding an Avalanche instead of a Frostbite, Like, in the Zombie Ash deck. It's not something I normally play. But I could play one, and then maybe it'll slow an opponent down enough to where I can get in the game. The thought of it might be there. Also, 1-ofs. Remember, it's open deck list, so that's important. Screen cap all the games. These are all, like, important things for this particular tournament. But yeah, no. So if you come with this, well, let's look at the okay. Discard aggro looks terrible here, but fine for Field of Rush, and fine for Invoke. You say. So, which I could see. I mean, you're not playing single combat, but I don't think you need it. You got meteors, you got some life gain. I think that's probably fine. Is there a hush in this deck or no? Or is it guide touch?
2 hushes.
It's usually one or the other. Yeah, okay. So you can beat a crowd favorite. You can block a jinx. Those are things. The Yeah, so discard aggro. So if you get up against the triple aggro lineup, it's going to have discard in it, right? Maybe discard plus pirate aggro, right? Plus what else? Scouts or nightfall, or are we counting nightfall as aggro? I mean, it feels like a mid-range deck to me. But I guess it technically is aggro. Also, Overwhelm being a deck as well. That's going to be difficult here, too, for this deck. Not sure how is it Overwhelm with the Invoke deck?
Overwhelm into Invoke?
Yeah, how's your Invoke into Overwhelm? This, again, I'm talking about the Targon Overwhelm, the more popular one. Yeah, everybody's not going to be rolling the PK Riot special.
No one plays it, I know.
I know how that is.
It's okay. I would need to practice it.
Let's put it in the
to
chat.
know a little more, but what I know about just Overwhelm keyword, I think the Invoke list can do well. The problem is the Targon version runs a lot of like uninteractive burn. And that's what I'm more concerned with than the actual Overwhelm, I think. Is you could get burned out by the Targon Overwhelm deck.
Yeah, it's like 3 decimates and 2 to 3 decimates and
They have the saboteurs and it adds up.
Yeah. Okay.
Disciples, Duo, and the Demolitionist.
Demolitionist, yeah. Someone play Demolitionist. I think more people are playing Goat right now with the Draven. Because you can get the gem and then you got something free to pitch to the Draven. Potentially. But it wouldn't matter based off the list for sure. But that seems like that could be a sore spot for this lineup as well, right? Of course, Pirate Aggro would be good against all of your decks. Less so maybe the Field of Rush. And you have to go in with the assumption that they're going to ban Field of Rush, I think. Because on the face value, it looks like the best deck against aggro, right? Overall. Unless they have scouts, right? So now if they have scouts, they might think, oh, well, scouts can beat that deck. So if it's scouts, pirate aggro, and discard aggro, what's the ban with this lineup?
So I imagine it'll be tricky to do scouts and pirate aggro.
You can't do them both. Yeah. It would have to be Lucian Zed. So maybe that's not a good example. Lucian Zed's probably not a good example. That's more like Bannerman. So what's the triple aggro lineup then? Fearsome, pirate.
The triple fearsome,
pirate discard.
Pirate discard, I imagine, or the Overwhelm. You could slot that in instead of discard.
Okay.
Some people are thinking of that.
That makes sense.
I think discard aggro is just broken.
Yeah, discard aggro is broken, but it has a worse game against Go Hard than the alternative. The other Draven deck. Overwhelm.
I think in most cases, if they have discard in their lineup, I'm going to assume they will ban Field of Rush.
Yeah.
And then...
Well, I think if they're a triple aggro, they're probably going to be banning Field of Rush no matter what.
Yeah, I think I would ban discard in that scenario. Because it does a lot of things both of these decks don't have a ton of interaction with.
Discard, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so then that would leave them with Pirate Aggro and Fearsomes. And you would
Pirate
have...
Aggro and Fearsomes, I would take my odds into.
With these decks here, right?
Yeah, with Overwhelm and with Invoke, I think both of them can beat Pirates and beat Fearsome.
Fearsomes, they're both even matches here, is what you're saying. So then, is there a plus on any of these for Pirate? No. They have Pirate is a negative. Which deck is better against Pirate?
Against Pirates, either Field of Rush or Overwhelm.
No. Field of Rush got banned. We're past the ban
Overwhelm
phase.
is the better deck into Pirates.
Okay.
Because Pirates almost becomes a mid-range deck at some point.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So I think that's the spot you want to be in. And given that case, Pirates and Fearsome, I think
We'll make hedges.
you're
in the
gonna
lineups
get
for
a
Pirates.
50%. Yeah, you're gonna get a 50% in the middle. If they lead with Fearsomes anyway, so you should lead with whatever deck is worse against Pirate aggro. That way, if they lead with Fearsomes, you get your 50-50 that you're going to get either way, right?
Mhm.
And if they lead with Pirate aggro, you just go ahead and give them the Pirate aggro win and get it out the way. And then you just got to beat Fearsome twice. I think that's the best way to lead in that situation. Does that make sense?
It does.
Because if you get the win with Invoke over Fearsomes, now they got to go through the 50-50 through Overwhelm. And you have a better matchup against Pirate aggro than if you left the Invoke out there. So that should be the strat against a lineup like that, which is probably going to be the most common triple aggro lineup. Or one of them. And if something changes, like, let's rearrange it, okay? Now they're not playing discard aggro, they're playing Overwhelm. Target. Okay? We get to the ban phase. Overwhelm Target, Pirate aggro, and Fearsomes. How are we looking on the ban on that one?
Like players likely bans Feel the Rush.
Do note that their Overwhelm deck has a good game into this Feel the Rush, I think. And we think. You can see it right here. And so does the and Fearsome has game against it too. So and since it is switching from discard, which is a heavy negative, to a positive now, right? Because discard aggro is not that good against Feel the Rush. So now they turn it into a plus. They don't have to auto ban this Feel the Rush anymore. You don't have to expect that. You're actually gonna have to think a little bit harder now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So where are we at here? Fearsomes.
So I think all three are good into
Overwhelm.
Fearsomes.
And
Atrocity, not Invoke, not as good.
all right. Now, you do have Pirate is looking weak against Feel the Rush, right? But
Yes.
Pirate looks like one that you might want to. How does the Invoke do against the Overwhelm deck? It seemed like it'd be fine. You say they got too much burn.
Yeah, Invoke into Overwhelm. I think they can burn you out. I think you just outvalue them and they get gassed. You eventually win.
We just asked that question and I typed it in the Academy chat. So that's one that we need to follow up on. Just so you'll know. And I'm telling you, if you know now, whenever it gets to that time, you're going to feel a lot better about knowing it. So this is some focused testing that you're going to need to do. And, like, you can scrim with whoever, find somebody who plays the deck. Actually, as a matter of fact, Grimnow plays the deck. He's playing it right now about to hit Masters. So, this is, looking at it. Okay, so Pirate's got 2 favorables on you. Overwhelm's got 1.5 maybe. Fearsome's even. Right? Like, or what we say about Fearsomes with the FTR? FTR and the Fearsomes.
Fearsomes, I think FTR is favored, personally.
Okay. It is card dependent though. Like if you can't deal with the harrowing, that's a problem. Like
After Ruination,
you know what I'm saying? Like if you're not already set up before the harrowing, that could be a trouble. If you don't have the avalanche and they have it could be trouble. One good thing going for you though is that you can avalanche whale to combo kill their harrowing. So keep that in mind. Sometimes avalanche will kill their whole thing too. Most of it anyway. Enough to where it doesn't matter. So it's probably not that big of a deal. Honestly, it's not always Ruination have to hold up. Yeah, okay, so I'd say that one's favorable for sure. We could do plus Fearsome here. So you got an even and a plus, so we could rule that out as a ban. We're not going to ban Fearsome. That one's easy, you see. Also, make sure you got this chart put together in real time too, because you're going to have 5 minutes to figure this out. It's a good tool. And then the Overwhelm deck is going to have a favorable and a slightly favorable. I think it's, pretty favorable against Field Rush. And like if they have any trick, then your Trundle can't ever block, and it's like feels real bad. And the Avalanche doesn't clean up. It has to be an Avalanche with a grasp, so it's difficult. And so that one's gonna be unfavorable, and then you got like a even here, and then now if you play your version of Overwhelm though, does it have any advantage over the other Overwhelm one? You have Braum. That seems like it might be good.
You have access to cards like Elixir of Iron to keep your units alive.
Braum seems like a big winner in that match, honestly.
Braum's great. I like Braum.
Like they have to commit first. They have to commit first. That's pretty important. Like Braum just straight blocks their 4/3, and then they have to go first. You know.
I had cut down to 2 Braum on ladder for a while, and now I'm back up to 3 Braum for the tournament.
Yeah,
He's very good.
You see how that works right here. Overwhelm, and then Pirate. So you might make some hedges in Overwhelm to where you can edge out the mirror a little bit, and that'll make up for the loss in the Field of Rush department. And then I don't know if there's something that can be done in the Invoke. I think we'll have to figure that out. Obviously, we don't know. So we can't really conclude that without actually playing them to know. But we know that Fearsome's getting let through, and we know that Pirate is good against 2 decks. So it's possible that you just ban the Pirate deck. And then you give them the 50-50 here with the Overwhelm, and then the Fearsome we know is 50-50 across the board except for this Field of Rush. And then if they make the mistake of banning Field of Rush, which is their best matchup with Overwhelm, then you're in a good spot. And now if they don't ban the Field of Rush, then that leaves you with, I mean, what's the other ban going to look like? Let's say we ban Pirate. Look at all the instances of what could happen in this ban. And this is like something you're just going to have to practice. That's why we look at the sheet and use that as a tool to practice with a bunch of different lineups. This is just one lineup. But start with this. See, we did the work. We fleshed it out. And then look at their decks. And then this is the process for each one. And again, you only have 5 minutes to do it. So once you get your decks lined up, you definitely want to practice this on some of those sample lineups that are in that spreadsheet. So if we ban the Pirate aggro, they have Overwhelm Fearsome. Start off. They ban your Overwhelm deck. Where are we looking? Got a good matchup here. Got it even against Fearsome. We already know that. The Overwhelm's over here. Going to do something dirty to this Ramp deck. And the Fearsome's got a good one against the Ramp deck. So you might be giving up a good matchup against Fearsome, I think, and then they have Overwhelm as well. So it's like really depends on what this Overwhelm Invoke matchup is. But they'll probably end up leading with the Overwhelm deck to try and get the good matchup against Field of Rush. But then that strands the Fearsome against Field of Rush. And so it's still going to end up coming down to your Invoke versus Fearsome 50-50. Still going to come down to a 50-50. So that's not a bad spot if you take out the Pirate. Does that make sense? Now say that's if they ban Overwhelm. Now if they ban Invoke, what's the scenario on that? Okay, so let's see, this is going to be easier if I had pen and paper. So the Overwhelm ban is going to leave you with a 50-50 on the end. You know? It's going to be pretty even. You come out that ban phase even is the important part. That's all we're looking for. Then if you take out, we want to come out with more than that, but at minimum that. So Invoke, they take that out, okay? We take out Pirate. Overwhelm versus Overwhelm, that's 50-50, but we'll have some small hedges, so we'll take an extra 5% in that matchup, right? Fearsome versus Overwhelmed, that's even, okay? Then they have Overwhelm. They have a lopsided one here, and then it's lopsided the other way. Okay? So we get that same 50%. And it's going to matter on what gets played first and playing it in the right order. But you still come out that ban phase even. Okay? So now that ban Field of Rush, we ban Pirate. Okay? That leaves Invoke versus Fearsome even, Invoke versus Overwhelm unknown, Overwhelm versus Overwhelm, that's even, possibly favored, Fearsome even. So at best, it's going to come down to the Invoke versus Overwhelm, which if you're a slight dog, it's probably more slight than the hedges you get in the Overwhelm mirror, pseudo mirror, right? So we're coming out negative there. So the opportunity is even to negative if you ban Pirate. Okay? So we had 2 evens and a slightly negative. Now say we ban the Overwhelm deck. You see, and this is the whole process on this one. Okay, so now it's a lot of work, man. So then the Overwhelm is gone, right? They let's start it off. They ban Feel the Rush. Fearsome and Invoke, we say that's even. Pirate and Invoke, not good. Pirate into Overwhelm, not good. Okay, even. We got no pluses. That's a negative. Okay, so now they ban the Invoke deck. Pirate and the Feel the Rush, that's plus on Feel the Rush. Fearsome, plus on the Feel the Rush. It just doesn't seem like they would ban. So, looking at that, that's a plus for us twice, and then we have Overwhelm left over, which is going to be a negative versus Pirate, even versus Fearsome. So a negative, we get 2 pluses. We're +1 on that if we ban Overwhelm. So yeah, we ban Overwhelm, and they ban Invoke. That's a plus for us. Now they ban the Overwhelm deck, and we ban the Overwhelm deck. Fearsome versus Invoke, even. Fearsome versus Feel the Rush, us. Pirate, them. Pirate, us. Right, we were saying that this is good against Pirate Aggro, right? Yeah, we were. I didn't write it up here, though. So that's a plus for us also. So I think our best ban is probably Overwhelm. Well, no. Because now, yeah, we both ban Overwhelm. Okay, so far, the Overwhelm's looking better than banning the Pirate in most case scenarios. Now, you look at it also from the Fearsome, we would never ban that. So we don't need to go through that instance. It would always be Overwhelm or Pirate. We don't need to ban the Fearsome. So it's probably better for us to ban Overwhelm, if that makes any sense.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
The only difference is if you ban Overwhelm, they might ban Feel the Rush, right? But then they're banning out their best matchup. Right here. The Overwhelm versus FTR is probably maybe one of the best matchups on the table, other than Pirate Aggro versus the Invoke deck, potentially. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's, percentages or whatever, but it seems like you just want to ban the Overwhelm deck and not the Pirate Aggro deck. Because there's just more instances of you coming out ahead. You do get the negative, though. Let's just look at it again. If the Overwhelm gets banned and they ban Feel the Rush, which I think more people will ban Feel the Rush than anything else.
Yeah.
That's like the worst situation for us. Because you got 2 negatives on this Pirate Aggro. Right? And then you got this Fearsome going even. So that's the worst thing that could happen. Is if you ban the Overwhelm and Feel the Rush, you'll end up with 2 evens and a negative. In which case, you remember how to play that, right? Bring your deck that is the worst against Pirate Aggro first.
Q Invoke first.
Right?
Yeah, Q Invoke first.
Yeah. To try and steal that win. And if Pirate gets their win, okay, let's go flip 2 coins. I can come back from this.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? But that's like in your worst case scenario. If you ban Overwhelm. Okay, there is a possibility that if they're playing Overwhelm, they're playing Overwhelm because it beats Feel the Rush.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so they might be looking to ban your Overwhelm. And remember how that played out. It's actually good for you. You got the even on the Fearsome, you got the plus on the Pirate. It's even.
Nobody should ban my Overwhelm deck.
No, but people do weird things, man. So, but that's the whole process right there. Pretty much did the whole thing. If you're doing this lineup, and again, the pluses and just to wrap up, the pluses and the minuses is we have a targeted ban of Fury Shin if you lead with these 3, right? That's what we're going to be looking to get rid of, possibly, but it's going to be more intricate than that because there's no second deck that I think that you're just looking to ban. It's like Fury Shin and then Pirate Aggro. Those are like 2, like that you probably want to ban more than others. You know, even if you got Feel the Rush in, it's likely that they're probably going to ban your Feel the Rush. I think if you bring these 3 decks and they play triple aggro, they're probably going to ban your Feel the Rush deck more than any other deck. The Avalanche deck is getting banned. Like, and if you got a plus on discard here, you have the minus here. That still could be tough. The triple aggro could be tough. If they play discard over Overwhelm, we went over that already. But this is like how you want to do it. I hope that helped.
Oh, it helped a ton. No, it was super helpful.
Dude, because when you win the ban phase, man, it feels so good. Because you already won the ban phase. And that's like the first part of it. And like the games are going to play out how the game's going to play out. That's going to happen no matter what. Like nobody's like winning over 70%, you know? So like you're playing against top players. So like you're not doing better than 70%. So the best you can do is win the ban phase to where the your range is a little higher on the win percentage. Overall, and you want to lead with the right decks, and then and also try and trap your opponent. You know, now your lineup's not really there to trap a lineup, honestly. I guess your best is go hard. So a more common lineup, we can do a couple of them. Let me move this over. Yeah, another lineup here. Let's see. Lee Sin. We got your Edgewell Swain. TF Go Hard, Fior Shen. Frostbite Tom. That's not a real deck. I mean, I built that deck. It was great, but it's not a real deck. Trundle Trinamir, Go Hard, and Edgewell Draven. Okay, so that's like a traditional lineup there. Okay, that's pretty traditional. And now your lineup's looking to trap the Go Hard deck. Okay, so that one's going through. Okay, but now we're looking at Edgewell Draven and Trundle Trinamir Yetis. Same deck you're playing. Okay, so where's Edgewell Draven in this mix with this lineup? Is the first question you want to ask yourself.
Ezreal Draven.
Even with Overwhelm, you got a good matchup.
I'm even or
Invoke.
favored with all three decks, I think.
Okay, and then what about Trundle Trinamir? It's even with Feel the Rush. You got the lopsided Overwhelm, and then you're also good with the Invoke.
Yep, pretty even along those lines.
So then it would just come down to the list at that point on which one you want to let through. Because you're letting through Go Hard every time. So you would just look at the list and see how you feel like playing. Because if you let through the Trundle Trinamir with the Go Hard, that means your Overwhelm's going to run wild. But what happens if they ban the Overwhelm deck? Where does that leave us? Put ourselves in that situation. They ban Overwhelm, we ban Ezreal Draven. Okay? That leaves us with an Invoke and Feel the Rush. So we got the 50-50 on the Trundle match. We got the Invoke favored one way and the other way. That looks like a good place. That's the same spot I told you wanted to be in earlier. Remember? That joke that you get them in? You know? The one I'm telling you about? The one that you love to see? Like, you can offer a 50-50 on the first go, but that's it. You know? That's it. And and that's even better, I think, that way, because your 50-50 is going to be Feel the Rush, right? So you can run Feel the Rush. If they run the mirror, okay. If they win the mirror, guess what? You got two favorable matchups. But what happens if they let through the Go Hard deck? Okay, so then you crush that with the Feel the Rush. And then you got to Invoke with two shots at this thing. That's great. You know, I think you lead with the Feel the Rush every time. Offer them the 50-50. If they get the skin, you can come back in. You know, because you got the favorable. And if they give you the win right away with the Feel the Rush, but if you get the win with the Feel the Rush, then you're going to win the match. If you win the 50-50. And I like doing that too, because the most lopsided matchup in those four decks post-ban is going to be that Go Hard is the biggest victim out of all four decks. Right? So what's the victim like to do? Go first. You know, they like to go first, man, and try and avoid the possibility of it being, you know, victim. Now, they could second dupe that and just throw Feel the Rush the win. You know, or you know, they what they could do is they get, in their perspective, they want to probably come with the Trundle Trinamir. I can see that. Try and get a win with it. They're not going to be able to avoid that matchup though, if you lead with it first. So don't mess up and play Invoke first, because the win percentage is way better Feel the Rush than Invoke against Go Hard. You agree?
Yes.
Okay. So that's the important things to know. Winning the ban phase, man. Took a lot of work, but you won the ban phase against probably the most common lineup is this lineup that we're looking at right here. The Trundle Trinamir, the Go Hard, and the Ezreal Draven. If you look at another, you know, lineup, you can do the same. Try and do the same, okay? And then use the same process and run it back. And here's a whole list of different lineups. I think, you know, there's other, you could come up, You can come with your own lineups, you know, but like that's just more thinking. You can use this for now, you know. Maybe you can swap something out, but that's what I would do once you settle on your practice the band phase. That way, when you get into it, you'll be ready to go.
Sounds nice.
And with that, I think I'm gonna wrap, y'all. I got a stream to get to, and if you got any other questions, though, feel free.
I think I'm good for now. Thank you. That was super helpful.
Yeah, man. Glad I could help. And yeah, and I'll put this VOD up in case you missed anything. So I'll post them both today. One love, baby.
Thank you.